Ahoy! Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It's the Monday Guitar Show. We are here, we are live, which we haven't been for a couple of weeks, and I am overjoyed to be back live, hanging out with you guys, doing the thing we do on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar. We got some great topics to talk about today. You may have read in the title. Today's subject is how to return to playing the guitar after an extended period of time away from the instrument. We'll kind of clarify that as we go on, and we'll talk a bit more about what that means over the course of today's lesson, today's session that we have together. We're also going to be doing a little bit of a NAMM recap because we'll keep it brief, but this is the first one back after NAMM. If you happen to watch either of our pre-recorded streams on the 2 weeks that I was away, thanks for sticking with us. Appreciate it greatly. If this is your first one joining us, hey, thanks for coming. This is something we do every week. We hang out, we talk about the guitar. It's great fun. We've got a lovely building community, brewing community of guitar players here. We'll say hello to everybody as we go a little bit further forward. It's always a good hang, right? And it's always nice to sit and chew the fat with other like-minded players. Today, of course, we're playing the bound back wing, but I've got to show you a couple of things because I had a little bit of a NAMM haul, let's say. There are 3 cool things that I came back from NAMM with, and this is one of them, right? Not the guitar. The guitar is super cool, but check this out, right? You may be wondering why this strap is hanging loose down here. I haven't quite finished fitting this yet, but this is the Richter, they call it the... What do they call it? I've got it written down here. I'm going to give it its full name. Slide tailpiece. That's the one. So I've been playing this particular Richter strap for a while, right? And I happened to bump into Lars Richter, the main man, at NAMM. Great guy. Really, really cool. And I was like, Lars, the tailpiece on my strap is wearing out. Like, help. Can I buy a new one? And his response was, you got to see this. Check this out, right? This is a tailpiece that you put on a leather strap that you can adjust in the heat of battle. So this is my standing guitar height, and I've got this tab over here that I can pull, which raises the guitar to my seating guitar height, right? Now this is amazing because you can have this set up in like the rock and roll kind of position, and then when it's time to play the tricky stuff, you pull on this and it's like it's locked in place, and then you just push firmly to return it to the low position. That is super cool, right? That's one of my favorite hauls from the NAMM show. Another one that I picked up, which is really good fun, is this guy. This is from Danny Songhurst over at The Rock Slide. Bought this off him. I paid for both of these, by the way. These were not freebies. This is just another version of the Rock Slide that you guys have seen me play a bunch. I'm normally a brass slide kind of guy, so I like my ball-tipped brass slides. Glass slide is fine, but sometimes you need a glass slide, especially if you're playing somebody else's guitar, because it's kind of impolite to take a big heavyweight brass slide like this one, or even worse, the kind that I normally use, which have this big tip on them like this. Let me just find it for you. That guy on there, which looks a bit like a shell casing, so American customs officers don't like that very much at all, pardon me, but a cough as the stream goes on. This is a really cool sounding slide. It feels really great, but it sometimes clunks when you play people's guitars with it, and it doesn't cause any damage, but it can be a little bit kind of, oh, don't like that. The problem I have with glass slides is they always kind of look like nothing, and this one reminded me of like cool 70s glasses and drinking cups and things and plates that my grandparents had. So very, very cool. We like a bit of that. And the last one, this was kindly sent to me by my friends over at Kernom. This is the Ellipse. This is the new modulation pedal. Expect a video on this, Guitar Interactive viewers, at some point in the not too distant future. We've already taken a look at the Ridge. The Moho is another stunner over there. That's the fuzz pedal. This is the modulation. And that's been my NAMM haul. So got some cool stuff, let me tell you, right? So pretty chuffed with that. Anyway, we're going to say some hellos, and then we'll get on to the meat of today's session, which is what we can do to return to playing the guitar for a layoff. Now, this is a topic that's close to my heart right now, because not to just like yak on about NAMM, or I've been to NAMM, you know, but I found myself on Friday picking up the guitar for the first time in what it turned out was about a week. Prior to that, hadn't played consistently for about a week prior to that. So you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, Nick, you've been in NAMM, should have been playing guitar all the time. It's probably the least I've played guitar for a 2-week period since the Blitzkrieg album was being made, where I was mixing and mastering the whole time. So the reason for this is, so I travelled south on Monday, stayed with Guitar Interactive editor Jonathan Graham. We, went to the gym, got some good food, didn't really sit and play the guitar very much, then flew on the Tuesday, didn't play at the show until the Wednesday, but even then, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday the show was off, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, still jet lagged. I would play intermittently. I wouldn't get an hour to sit down and practice, and then we had a week where we were still in LA, but weren't really doing a great deal of playing, and I sat down on Friday and played. I was like, man, I am out of practice. Everything feels bad. This feels terrible. So I thought to myself, well, what do you do in these kind of situations? I've been in this situation loads, and I have a little method, a little process that I follow, and things are starting to feel a bit better now. But I thought to myself, this is a topic that our viewers on the Monday Guitar Show will get a kick out of. So we'll get into that. Close to my heart, but before we do, some hellos. PJ is the first one here. Great to see you. Marcin is here. Foghornish is tuning in with a recommendation. I'm going to get into this in a second. Howdy, friends. Never been a fan of Vi, but have to admit, Passion and Warfare has grown on me massively in the last couple of weeks. Any other Vi recommendations? I have one. And this is the one that got me into Steve Vai. So when I was a kid, I thought music started and finished with Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses. So that was guitar playing for me, and sometimes Metallica. But I was always under the impression, because guitar magazines told me so, right? I was always under the impression that Steve Vai's music was terrible, and that guitar playing like that was just like wanky, self-indulgent nonsense. And I believed it. I bought into that until a friend showed me the song Juice, and said to me, this is the greatest rock and roll intro of all time. And he played it for me, and I was like, that is amazing. What is that? Who is that? And I was expecting it to be like a Motley Crue song or something. I don't know. And he was like, it's Steve Vai. I'm like, it can't be Steve Vai. Steve Vai's music is lame. And but that music is great. And like cognitive dissonance me was like, it can't possibly be Steve Vai. Steve Vai is terrible. I didn't know. I hadn't listened to Steve Vai. I was 16-year-old from Blythe in the northeast of England. Where do you go to find Steve Vai? In Blythe. Anyway, the album, or rather EP, in question is one called Alien Love Secrets, and I think it's tremendous. So it's my favourite Steve Vai record to date. It's got Bad Horsey on it, it's got Tender Surrender on it, it's got Juice, which is killer, Boy from Seattle, loads of great cuts, and some wacky stuff too, like Kill the Guy with the Ball is bizarre, as is Yayo Gak featuring a young Julian Vai as a baby. It might be Julian, I'm not sure which one of his sons it is, I think it's Julian, on lead vocals, but as a baby, going bah, 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 and just sort of talking baby talk. But it's a killer album, mainly because there isn't the big orchestration that goes on with a lot of Steve Vai albums. It's very much just a stripped back guitar, drums, bass record, and it is better for it, I think. So there you go. Welcome back, Mike Seedorf says, you were missed. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed every moment you experienced along with meeting, talking to a musician you've always wanted to. That's what NAMM's about, man. We had a great time. I'll tell you a little more about that in a second. Larry Warren, he's asking, what were the NAMM highlights? Some real good stuff, let me tell you. Victory have a new thing, but unfortunately, pardon me, I'm still coughing. Victory have sworn me to secrecy on what the new thing is. So I've seen the new thing. The new thing is amazing, but I can't tell you what it is, how much it costs, what it does, any of that stuff, unfortunately. But it's mint. It is really, really great. Who else brought exciting stuff this year? I'll tell you what was cool. There was lots of things that happened this year that weren't, that could only happen at NAMM. So we went to the PRS anniversary event. Amazing. John Mayer headlined. David Grissom was the star of the show, in my opinion, as a player. Unbelievable. Philip Sayce blew everybody's minds. Mark Lettieri was exceptional, but John Mayer was the man. There was a secret Tool gig that nobody knew about. Apparently, Tool played a 400 cap show just on the hoof. It felt like a pre-COVID NAMM, let's put it that way, which is super cool. Lots of friends there, the sort of friends you can only see when you're on the other side of the globe, even though they might only live 3 hours away. Who knows? But it was a really great show. The new modded Marshalls are phenomenal, really genuinely great, as is the Mini 900. But in addition to this, the Friedman Jose, which I can't help but notice the timing of. Let's just say, notice that's an inauspicious release. That can't have been done by accident. But man, it is mind-blowing. It is a superb amplifier. Now, you guys know I'm a Victory guy, right? I love Victory stuff. But we all like amps. Everybody at Victory likes other amps too. It's fine. It's okay. We're allowed to say other amps are great. And these amps, tremendous. It's kind of been a year of amps, I think, which is refreshing because I love amps. I like modelers, I use modelers, it's fine, but I like amps. Amps are exciting. What else was cool? Ernie Ball got some tremendous new stuff. The Martin Double Neck was amazing. I could rant about that forever, but some very, very cool stuff. Very cool things. Timothy Appling says, "Hi Nick and fellow guitarist. Nick, tell us about his NAMM journey." I think I just did. If you guys want to know more about NAMM, let me know. I'll NAMM until until my voice goes hoarse, let's say. Kim's in the house, just been chatting to Kim. It's great to see you on the stream. We were just chatting about this a second ago. Cranker Tom is here. Helmet Strap is here. Deadman Doogie Van Dugison is here with Chat of Snow in Vancouver. Not snowy here. It's starting to get a bit warmer. Block 18 is here. Good to see you. Franz is tuning in. Mark McNish, Jada Barter. We'll blast through these very quickly. Ergo Hogg is in the house. Steve Smith is here. Steve, great to see you. Steve Smith, is it Steve Smith from Marshall? If it's Steve Smith from Marshall, those amps, chef's kiss. Lee Kendler's here. Rick Elliott says, nice job at NAMM this year. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Steve-O, what hell? I recognize that guitar. I know who this is. Great to see you, man. Hello, all. Interesting mods at Marshall mods at NAMM. They're great. You'll love them, right? British heavy metal heads, you will love them. Our friend Citizen is in the house. NAMM was really good fun. Raphael is here. Secret God Slayer says, disappointing NAMM regarding the bigger brands, but the smallest brand did great stuff. I feel like, not sure I agree with that, man, because Marshall have knocked it out of the park. Maybe the bigger brands in terms of like Gibson, Fender, but Gibson and Fender were there. And that's the important bit, right? That's the important bit. It feels like a return. Dreams is in the house. Hey lads, it's Monday once again. Is indeed. Paul Bradshaw. Hey, good to see you, man. Paul says, greetings from Luxembourg. It was great hanging back at Guitar Summit and see you on here. Totally unrelated. Does the heavy lifting thing help or hinder the guitar playing? Helps. But we'll get into that later on. I'm going to start that up because it's a very good question. We'll get into that. Darren's in the house. We've got loads of friends in today. Loads of friends. Anybody I've missed? Justin Ray is here. I think that's everyone. So, I could waffle all day, but let's get into the subject in question. We've got a question about heavy picks coming in from Dreams. I will get onto that as well. We'll do that in the Q&A section. But first of all, let's talk about guitar after a layoff. So this is an interesting topic because it's something we will all experience, right? Playing guitar and having a layoff from the guitar is inevitable. It happens. Now, myself and Stuart Shields were chatting about this when we were just kind of discussing the content of today's stream earlier on today. It's kind of lunchtime sort of time. And he's like, well, what are we doing today? This is what we're doing. So he made a really interesting point, or raised an interesting point, or rather got me thinking about an interesting point where he said, oh yeah, well, this is something the members talk about all the time. If you're not a Lick Library member, by the way, this is brought to you by Lick Library. Don't forget, links down below. Go get some lessons, but not right yet. Not right now, after the stream. Anyway, he said, oh, well, people bring this up all the time, but folks like us, meaning me and him, who, you know, our job is to play the guitar, we don't really experience this. And I thought about it for a second and went, well, actually, there's been 3 times in the last 12 months where I've had a layoff from the guitar. Let's say a layoff. One of them was when I was mixing and mastering the Blitzkrieg album, which, man, let me tell you, by the time I was finished tracking, when I was tracking the guitars, I was playing well. My chops were on, and I'm proud of the work that I've done on that album. But when it came time to mix and master, I put the guitar aside, and it took me weeks to really kind of, weeks, took months. And I didn't really play a great deal in that time. So when I came back from that, I was a bit of a mess as far as playing goes. Second one was NAMM Just Gone and the NAMM previous, where we have these extended travel periods, beg your pardon, and time away from the instrument. where it's enforced, where you don't have an instrument that is readily accessible. I don't have a guitar with me. Now, last year I took the CRE guitar with me, which was cool. It was really great. Meant I could sit and practice in the hotel room. I didn't get as rusty. But this time around, I didn't have access to a guitar for, as we mentioned at the start of the stream, a good 3 days, 4 days before the show, and for a week after the show. No access to an instrument. And I got pretty rusty pretty quick. The other time is when I was preparing for a powerlifting meet that I was really invested in. Now this happened in April. I was really invested in this particular competition. It's where I set my deadlift record. And I was training 4 times a week, but I was training something like 3 hours a day because these sessions were really important to me. And I was taking a lot of time over them. And that really eats into the amount of time you can play the guitar when you have friends, family, partner, other commitments in life that you don't want to just shelf and go, I'm not coming out for a month. And you also have a job. You have to work and play the guitar. So the only time I would really play was when I was teaching or when I was streaming. And I think it showed. It kind of decayed pretty quickly. So it's not just folks who aren't like lifers, if you want to put it that way. Everyone will face periods of time. Everyone will face periods of time when you can't play as much as you want to play. Now, this may be an injury, it may be a life event, it may just be a period of personal stagnation, it may be a holiday, it may be, who knows, there are lots of reasons why you might not play the guitar for a while, but, you know, it's not so much these periods that are the issue, it's what you do after them. It's how you come back from these periods of time, these fallow periods of playing, that is what matters. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to give you some ideas. This may not be you right now, but it will be you at some point, I guarantee. Now, just so we can share our experiences in the comments, let me know in the comments down below the last time you had an extended layoff from the guitar. Now, this doesn't have to be a period of never playing, but like not playing at all, but it could be a period where you play very little and you feel like maybe you've lost a bit of motivation, or you're interested in other things, or you just didn't have the time to play or to practice. Let me know in the comments when the last time that was for you, and how it felt and how you got back from it. So we're going to get into the meat of the thing today. So let's begin by talking about some strategies for coming back from a layoff. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about managing expectations. So in terms of managing expectations, we can expect our playing to be, let's just say, less than our peak when we come back from an extended period of time away from the instrument, right? I think we can all recognize that's normal, right? We can all recognize that's normal. Foghornish in saying pretty much now it's started over Christmas. Now that is normal, right? Christmas is a time where you think you can have loads of time to sit and play, but it's not always the case, right? Often you have so many commitments going on. You also maybe have the situation that lots of us have where you have 3 weeks to do a month's worth of work at your job. Let's say it's common, right? It's common. Here's someone from Gary, says, didn't play from age 19 till age 37. I think you're winning for biggest layoff there. But, you know, hey, that's a long period of time. We've got some other ones here. Stopped playing in 2016 and didn't return until 18 months ago. Still can't get back to the previous level. We'll maybe see if we can do some stuff like that. Justin Ray says his layoff time is definitely almost every December because we go on holiday. This is what I'm talking about, right? Citizen says, I think I've managed about 90 minutes over the last 3 weeks. It's surprisingly common. PJ fractured his ring finger 2 years ago. Took 6 months to get back. Finger is still bent, though. So C-7 rather than C minor. Ouch. I'm glad to hear you back, though, man. I'm glad to hear you back at it. Now, I know some folks who've had similar things, who've like either injured a finger or injured a hand. It sucks, right? It really sucks. But you know, it's one of these things that we're talking about. Like an injury can be the cause of a layoff. There's lots of things. Sacred Godslayer says last time was 10 days ago. My downstrokes were completely gone in 5 days. Right, this is what I'm talking about. So you'd be astonished how quickly your adaptations will decay as a guitar player. So if you take as much as 3-4 days off, let's say. This doesn't seem like a lot of time, right? It is shockingly easy, even for someone like myself whose job it is to play the guitar, shockingly easy for that amount of time to go by and not play. Surprisingly easy, because things get in the way, and I can find myself moving, like working in music and doing things that are music related, but I ask myself how much I played in a given week, and the answer is, not a lot, mate. So you would be astonished with this. Now, even in this short period of time, things that we are good at doing can start to go, can start to fade. And this is the first bit that I want to talk about, which is managing expectations, right? So we need to recognize the difference between adaptations and skills that we've developed being rusty versus being gone. So Sacred Godslayer brought this up, right? He said his downstrokes were completely gone in 5 days. Now, I get what you're saying then. I totally get what you're saying. And I would have phrased it that way as well. But it is quite important to recognize that with any guitar playing skill, the skill is not gone. The skill is just a little rusty. And it's going to take a little bit of time to bring back to a previous level. How much time? It's almost never as long as it took to develop that skill in the first place. So if you already know how to do something, if you've already put in the time and you've banked those neural pathways, let's say, you've developed the skills that you are trying to develop with your playing, it's almost never as long to get back to a previously attained level than it is to break that new ground. We'll get into how long you can expect to, because that's all fair and well me saying, but the question is, well, Nick, how long? We'll get into some timelines for that in a wee bit. But let's say, for example, we took a skill, right? So something I noticed when I was sitting doing a little bit of practice on Friday was how bad my picking felt, right? My picking felt absolutely terrible. So what I decided to do was there's a few ways I could have approached this. What I could have done is I could have languished in the licks that I had been playing and tried to play them over and over again and fail at them, right? So examples of this might be if I was trying to play a phrase that I play quite regular. And I'll show you this phrase now, right? Just for a bit of a reference. So let's say I was trying to play this phrase, which I play all the time. This particular phrase is in the key of E minor, and it might be this. I might play 7, 9, 10 on the A string, 9 on the D string, 7, 9, 11 on the G string, 10 on the B string, 7, 10, 12, 14 on the high E string. A phrase that I play fairly regular when I'm on, it might be something like this, for example. We can hear how sloppy that is immediately. There it isn't. Stuff's kind of working for me a little bit better today than it was on Friday, but that lick in particular, right? Let's say I wanted to sit and play that. If I sat and hammered on that lick, which was my instinct, right? My instinct was, ooh, can't play that. That sucks. I'm going to play it over and over and over again. That is a surefire way for me to become disappointed in my own playing and somewhat disillusioned, because what I'm expecting here is peak performance at a period of time when my peak performance isn't there. So what I decided to do instead was I decided instead to focus on some more basic aspects of my playing, more basic aspects of my picking, and to zone in on the technical aspects that were giving me grief. So I looked at the things that I used to be able to do quite easily with my pick, which is to play scales, to play scale sequences, and I spent some time on those. Now, I also took a point of taking these scale sequences that I would normally play and making them slower and less complex than they would normally be. So for example, if I was to normally play something like this, let's say I was going to do a little bit of warming up and I was going to play some scales in, say, thirds, right? Let's say I was going to take this G major scale and play it in thirds. There's already some little scrap in there. Now, rather than me going, well, that's the way I normally play it, you can hear the scrap in there, right? And normally that would be fine. That wouldn't be something that would cause me much issue. But right now, the rust is here. You can hear that, even just catching that low root note, it wasn't quite there, right? So what I decided to do instead was I decided to meet my playing where it was at, rather than expect something of myself that wasn't there. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, meeting yourself where you're at on a given day is taking a look at your capabilities for a day and going, well, look, we're going to practice here. I'm going to play here. I'm not going to try and play at a level where I'm not at today. I'm going to take a look at where I am and I'm going to work there. This is kind of it's kind of a principle that I've taken from training, right? So I did the same thing when I returned to lifting, right? So my first session back, after 2 weeks off, I had low bar squat competition style, bench press competition style, and my numbers were way lower than they would be normally. But I've done this so many times with training that I kind of recognize, that's fine. It's okay. It doesn't really matter, right? It's more important to find an appropriate level of challenge than it is to chase a particular number on the bar. But the same is true for the guitar, right? So if I would normally sit and play these, let's say, for example, at a given speed, let's say 120, I might play 16th notes. That is not there today, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute and find an appropriate level of challenge and recognize that it's not about chasing a number on the metronome. But today, it's about chasing an appropriately difficult level of practice, which for me is here. So on and so forth. Messing around a bit now, but you get the gist. Now, that is at 90 BPM. The previous example was at 120 BPM. Were I in a flow where I've been practicing an awful lot and I've been playing loads and loads and loads, that 90 BPM would represent a serious decrement in performance. I'd be like, whoa, things are off. What's going on? Something's wrong. But something's not wrong. I'm just detrained. I'm detrained with my playing. So by focusing on finding an appropriate level of challenge, rather than worrying about what you were able to achieve at your peak, you're setting yourself up for progress. Because, you're setting yourself up for progress because we're taking what's there on a given day, right? We're taking what is there in terms of our capabilities, we're challenging ourselves, we're getting a practice stimulus, rather than just worrying about, oh my God, I can't play this thing that I used to be able to play. We do this in the knowledge that that stuff will return. It will return because if you put in the hours, you will get back to the previous level of ability that you were at. It's going to happen, right? We might think about this as a process mindset rather than an outcome-based mindset. Embrace the process. But what I also did while I was there, long-time viewers of the stream will notice that my hand looks a little different, right? Normally, what I would do with this is I'd normally have a couple of fingers down in the pick guard, right? I decided to take this as an opportunity to reassess my picking technique and reassess some things that I don't like about my technique, which specifically is my tendency to over-mute. So I have this weird tendency where I will be really conservative with my muting to the point where I sometimes mute notes that I actually want to play when I'm trying to mute strings that I don't want to come out. And I decided that this would be a good opportunity for me to address this because I'm working at slower tempi that is challenging, and it's not like I'm having to regress to re-engineer a part of my technique that's, you know, annoying me, but the rest of it is working. Nothing's really working the way it's supposed to right now. So this is a good chance to tidy that up. So this became a new goal for me. It became a little fringe goal where I was like, okay, you know what? If I'm going to be going a little slower for a couple of weeks, maybe what I'll do is I'll work on getting these picking fingers off the guitar's body. So instead of playing like this, which can lead to this over-muting thing that I talked about. It can work for a lot of players, but for me it wasn't really doing the trick. It was kind of getting annoying. I thought, oh, what if I try playing with fingers off? It's still a little bit rusty. Now, this is starting to feel pretty good, right? But I wouldn't have done this had I have been at the peak of my powers, right? I would have gone, you know what, it's working, don't mess with it. But the fact that we are a little bit in layoff land, this is a good opportunity for me to reassess this stuff, because I'm not having to go back in speed to just do this stuff. I'm having to go back because I have to go back anyway. So this is a good time to reassess some of that stuff. Now, other things we can do is we can take a look at some things that would require us to suck. So what do I mean by this? Well, requiring you to suck is a way of embracing when your guitar chops aren't that great, much like I'm doing here. Finding things that I wouldn't be great at doing and working on those, because it doesn't actually make a difference whether my playing is good generally or whether it's less good generally, because it's not going to be good at the thing regardless. And the analogy I'm going to use here is learning a new piece. So if you've always wanted to learn a particular piece of music, coming back after a layoff is actually a really good time to do it, because you're not going to be able to play a brand new song or a brand new piece particularly well the first time you sit down and do it, if it's a piece that's appropriately challenging. If it's a piece that you can play in your sleep, you know, let's say, for example, you're a virtuoso guitarist, but you never got around to learning the riff from Smoke on the Water, it's kind of not what I'm talking about, because you'll be able to play that with your eyes closed. But finding a piece that is like, oh, I feel like I could do that, but might not be super easy. Say, for example, you decided that you wanted to learn, I don't know, on my mind is this arrangement that I have of The Way It Is by Bruce Hornsby and the Range. Really cool little piece, right? I like it a lot. We did this in the band for a brief period of time, and then we kind of shelved it. And I decided to myself, you know what? Like, I was never entirely happy with the way I played that, so maybe I'll spend a bit of time mastering that. Now, I haven't played it in a while, so I had to kind of relearn this, but it would be like learning a new piece of music. And we have a sponsored lesson that I'm going to talk to you about in a second about this, because free lessons are available, right? And they will be in the comments down below after this video is finished. So wherever you're watching this, return to the video. It'll be linked down in the comments, right? We have a great free lesson on the subject of acoustic arrangements of classic rock songs. John Connon's doing the lesson. It's great, right? Available for free just for this week for stream viewers, right? We'll link it in the comments after this video. So come back after this. It'll be linked down below. Now, in the pinned comment. So I might take this opportunity to relearn this piece, because I'm not going to be very good at it. Right? I'm not going to be very good at playing it the first couple of times I play it, because it's quite a challenging piece, right? It's quite difficult. It presents several challenges to me, but if I was at the peak of my powers, I would find this quite annoying. I'd find it quite annoying to suck at this piece. And I'd maybe kind of like throw let's throw my toys out the pram, to use an analogy, right? I'd be like, no, I'm not learning that. That makes me confront how bad I feel like I'm playing. But if I'm already playing badly, it doesn't really matter if I'm bad at playing this song, because I'm going to be bad at playing this song regardless. And I'm going to be bad at playing regardless. So why not take this as a chance to learn something new and just you appreciate the fact that, am I bad because it's new? Am I bad because the piece is new? Am I bad because I'm playing badly? Doesn't matter. I'm going to be bad regardless. And this focuses my energy on a new piece without expectation that it's going to be good, because it's new, and nothing's good when it's new, right? We all know that, right? You don't fall into that trap of like, because something's new, it's got to be great. It's not how it works. See right there, that was difficult, because that move, was challenging, and catching this. Again, I would find that deeply annoying were I playing like superbly on a given day, right? I would find this really irritating because I'd be like, oh, why can't I get this? And I would fall into that horrible mindset, but because I already suck, it doesn't really matter. And as a result, you almost get into this practicing groove where, you know, the process matters more than the outcome, right? It's more about having fun learning this piece than it is about sounding your greatest. And this is really cool because it gives you a different focus to just sounding brilliant, right? I sound tremendous. Listen to me, I can play all the great stuff, right? It takes that away from you as something that you have to worry about. And that's good because you're at a period in your guitar playing journey where you're not sounding your best because you've come back after a layoff. And this is great because what it does is it makes you feel like you're accomplishing something, because you are, and that in turn can really build some momentum and some enthusiasm in your playing. And this leads me to my final point on this, which is something we'll labor on for a while. We've got some other great questions, so I'm keen to get to those. But if you have questions, drop them down below. We'd love to hear from you, right? Questions in the comments. We'll do a full Q&A later on in this stream. But this leads me to my final point, which is to build momentum in your playing. And what does that mean? Well, building momentum is something that we talk about quite a lot in strength sports, where we talk about training momentum. And we talk about the idea of not hitting weights that are at your absolute capacity on day one, and allowing yourself a little bit of artificial headroom in terms of what you can do in training so that you can build a bit of steam and a bit of momentum that allows you to progress week from week. And you can do this artificially. So let's say, for example, I was training, and I currently am training for a 300 kilo deadlift. That's the goal, right? End of the year, 300 kilos. And let's say, for example, I was in the training block when I was going to hit that 300 kilo deadlift. Now, let's say that my capacity on a given day was 190. It's nowhere near that right now. It's probably more like 290. My mistake, 290. It's maybe a bit more like high 270s right now, but even still, and that would be limit. I wouldn't go in on week 1 of 6 and go, I'm going to pull 290. Even if it was an appropriate training stress, I may come in and pull 260 on week 1. I may then move to 270 the next week, 280 the following week, 285, 290, 295, 300. Now, I may have been ready to pull 300 for weeks ahead of the time when I actually do it, but what I'm doing here is I'm fostering momentum by not going to the limit every time I sit and play. Now, this is a really cool thing when you're coming back from a layoff, because momentum builds enthusiasm and it builds joy in your playing and your practice. It makes you want to practice. So what you can do with this is you can artificially generate training momentum or playing momentum, practicing momentum, by starting off with things that maybe aren't super hard, right? Maybe things that maybe aren't like at a limit for you. You can go, you know what? I feel like I've always wanted to learn a bunch of Beatles songs. This might be a great time to do it. Now, you may be the kind of player that is not dreadfully challenged by learning Paperback Writer, let's say, or learning So I Standing There, or whatever. But that gives you a bit of success. It gives you an easy win early in your layback layoff comeback, let's say. Now you can build from that, and you can go, well, I've done quite well with that. That was quite good. I wonder if maybe I might now go and learn some blues licks. You know, I feel like my blues vocabulary is kind of suffering. Yeah, I want to get on the shred train, but I feel like, you know, maybe I'll learn some blues stuff and some things that maybe isn't super challenging, but maybe I'll get the blues ballad out and play some Peter Green stuff. Do I have my blues ballads? I'm pretty sure I have my blues ballads here. Let's go find one. My slow blues. Let's go find a really nice slow blues. I definitely have one. Let's dig slow blues in B flat, in B rather. So rather than going, okay, I'm going to jump straight back into the really challenging stuff, I might sit and try and develop some of these ideas, where I might play. Again, I think. None of this is mega challenging for me, right? But it's not a flex. I'm not saying, oh, aren't I great because this is challenging. You might choose something like this that is challenging, but not really challenging, because it gives us a chance to gradually increase the level of challenge in our playing, the level of difficulty with the stuff we're grappling with, week by week by week, which in turn fosters this sense of achievement, even if the stuff that you're doing is quite basic to begin with. What I'll say with this is a lot of people will poo-poo this idea. They'll poo-poo the idea of playing something that's a bit easier, because they go, well, that's beneath me. That is beneath me. That's not challenging for me. Don't write it off, man. I'm giving you license to use this opportunity when you are, you know, maybe coming back from an extended period of time off and your guitar playing isn't together. Use this opportunity to do some stuff that is a little easier as a way of on-ramping yourself, getting some easy wins, a way of kind of getting yourself going. Your playing will improve during this process, just by the simple fact that you're playing more. This is the time to do it, right? I'm giving you free carte blanche to play the easy stuff for a while and work your way through to the more difficult stuff. You'll be a better, happier player by the time you get to the more challenging stuff. So, folks, that's been a little bit of thought on how to return to guitar after a layoff. I've been doing all this stuff myself. We're going to be continuing this thought process over the next few streams. It's not going to be the same stuff, but we're going to talk about some tools that you can use to improve your practice. We're going to talk about how you can take exercises and scale them, all that sort of business. That's going to be a topic for February, right? It's going to be a big thing. We'll get into all that sort of stuff. We've got loads of good stuff lined up for you, but I thought this would be a fun topic to discuss to begin with. However, we've got a load of questions, and we're going to get into the questions today. But if you have questions or you have observations, drop them down below. We would love to hear from you. So we're going to highlight some points that you guys have brought up here very quickly. So here's a good one, right? From Justin Ray. It says, Ben Travers mentioned in the Q&A that he just came back from an extended break from the guitar. Seriously, such a monster guitarist. Check him out if you haven't. Can concur, right? Sacred God Slayer is rightly pointing out, it's Rick Graham's mate. Can you expect less than a monster? Now, this is worth paying attention to, because a lot of really great players will go through this journey, and they'll go through this journey publicly. I know Rick has done similar things. Tom Quayle, when he injured his hand, had a similar sort of deal. Malmsteen was a bit more secretive about it, but has talked recently about the hand injury and the healing process and all that sort of thing. You would be astonished the reasons that great players will have for taking time out. It's either forced upon them, or it can be voluntary. It can be like, look, I just had other things I was working on, or I wanted some time off. I had a new baby. I was getting married. I was going on holiday. I was learning the piano. I was whatever. There are so many reasons. I was on tour, right? I was on tour, and when you're on tour, you don't get to play very much. You'd be astonished. You'd think, when you're touring, you just play all the time. Nope. Unless you're at a level where somebody is like, you've got your own dressing room to yourself. And you're not dressing in like a big communal space where it's annoying if you sit and play the guitar. And you're on a bus, don't play the guitar on the bus. Don't be that guy. You will get kicked off the bus very quickly. If you're of a level, you get to play all the time. But for us schlubs, doesn't happen. So you can come back less hot than you began, for example. But anyway, I digress. It's worth looking at things like this just to kind of remind yourself that this happens to everyone. This happens to everyone. So we're gonna address some questions, some startup comments here, right? So here's a great one from Foghornish saying, "Gotta say, a slight break can be good as it allows you to come back with a fresh perspective. Just in my experience, not too long though." And that's true. It's important to get back on the horse, but a layback's as long as it is, right? You don't often get to choose how long it's going to be. It can be, if it's travel, you don't get to pick. If it's injury, you don't get to pick. If there's life stuff you're dealing with, you don't get to pick how long it is. So just one of those things. So we are going to start by getting on this discussion of picks. It's nothing to do with practice, right? But it's an interesting discussion all the same. Our friend Dreams is saying, how do you all think about really heavy picks? I just tried a 3mm pick and love it to practice technique. Now, I like a heavy pick, right? I feel like a heavy pick is a bit of a secret weapon. So I'm just scanning around to see if I have any handy. I don't think I do. I think the heaviest I have is probably a 2mm something, but I've got these 1.5mm flows that I'm going to grab very quickly to just sort of show this stuff off. I have one of the Didario Casein picks kicking around as well, which is quite heavy, but not mega heavy. Now, I like a heavy pick for, there we go, right, perfect. There's a 3mm in here, just hidden. I knew it was going to be in there somewhere. We've got a 3mm, got a couple of 1.5mm, and maybe some 2s as well. So, I'll talk about the pros and cons of thick picks in a second, right? But first of all, let me demonstrate the difference in sound between different picks. So here's 3, right? Here is my current pick du jour. It is a Dunlop Tortex Jazz 3. You probably won't be able to see that, but there it is, right? Dunlop Tortex Jazz 3. This is a 1.5mm Dunlop flow. This is a 3mm Dunlop flow. They look the same, but listen to how they sound, right? If I play some blues licks, same sort of deal. I'll try and keep the licks reasonably similar. Let's go to a tone where you'll really hear it, right? Let's maybe go to the, let's actually get a bit more dirt on there, but we'll not go like super dirty, or the amp is howling at me. Shush. Let's go to 1.5mm flow. 3mm flow. 1.5, 3. The differences are subtle, but there's a difference there. There's the Tortex. Here's the 3mm. Big difference in the sound, certainly in the attack of the note. Now, the attack is very bright with a thick pick by comparison, right? Certainly if the pick's material is hard, you get this real big at the start of the note, and that can be really cool. Now, when I say I like big picks as a secret weapon, I've had this before where I would, I was a bit of a dick move, to be honest, but I would walk around trade shows that we were covering, and I would have a 6mm pick in my back pocket, right? It was a Windspear pick. They were custom made. They're great, and they sounded unbelievable. It's like just huge sounding picks. And what I would do was, because people didn't have the first idea who I was, still don't, right? Why would they? But, even still, I would go around, people had no idea who I was, and they would, play the new thing, the new guitar they've got, and I'd be like, that's really cool. Can I try it? And I would grab my 6mm pick and go. And the response would be like, holy shit, how did he make it sound like that? It sounds so big when you play it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, man, must just be my hands. You want us to demo it for you? When the pick was contributing a bit. So it was a little bit of a dick move, right? But I enjoyed doing that stuff. Now, that's my thoughts on it. However, what I have noticed is, personally, I find it, because you may be wondering, well, Nick, if these picks sound so much bigger, why are you using this pick? Why are you using this wee tiny pick? Well, what I have noticed is that big attack is very seductive, but it can be more challenging to get subtlety out of a huge pick. That can be a difficult thing. So if I'm playing my blues licks, let me play some phrases with the little small pick that I'm playing with right now, and then the big picks. And then we'll talk about some applications when you might use one or t'other. So let's throw this on. So if I'm playing with this wee tiny pick, I can get littler notes. Whereas if I play with a big pick, it's more difficult to get the soft touch. It's possible, but it's much harder work to get the evenness on the small notes. The notes become kind of, yes, you can get them small, but they become kind of hollow. They also really stand out when compared to your legato. So if you're trying to blend picking and legato together, a big pick is maybe the enemy, because it really stands out when you hit a pick note, versus when you play with a wee tiny pick, it blends a little better. Let me show you what I'm talking about here with the original track, which is, let me just find it, bear with me one second. The original track we're playing with, which was in E minor, and I have now lost. Where are you? Because I really liked that track. I was really enjoying it, so I'm going to play over that one rather than just finding any other one. Let's find you. Cannot find it, so instead I'll play one of the big hair tracks, because they're also fun. Key B minor, right? So if I try and blend picking and legato with a big pick, listen to the difference. That track's loud. Wow. So picking with a big pick. Now we can hear those obvious interruptions in the flow with the big pick that you can't hear with the small pick so much, because while the small pick sounds less big in and of itself, not necessarily a bad thing if you're trying to blend with a particular approach. That was a big rant on picks, so I like them. Do I use them all the time? Not so much. Here's one from String Theory, 1975. Says, with picks I find I can get used to pretty much anything, but different picks, sizes, materials, thickness, etc. all make a difference. Yeah, for sure, 100%. Now, I think I've told you guys about this tale before, about my one of my mentors, Brian Younger, who I always describe as a proper guitar player, like a real guitar player. Not like me, he's a real guitar player. Because Brian played like country and gypsy jazz, and like he's a proper guitar player. Like really, really genuinely great. Ran this tiny guitar shop in Newcastle. I would go in there anytime I felt down in the dumps, and Brian would cheer me up by telling me an anecdote about someone or showing me a lick, or showing me how to my truss rod. Oh, a lot to that guy, right? Brian was the man. It is the man. I say was. He's retired, so he's not at the shop anymore. But Brian's the man. So Brian told me about. I was talking about pedals one day, and I was chatting to him about boost pedals. So I was like, Brian, I think I need a boost pedal for my solos. And his response was, "Have you tried a different pick?" And his deal was he would stand by his amp when he was playing, and he would have a thin pick for playing rhythms and a thick pick for playing solos. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? Right? What are you talking about? The guitar magazines, they all say I need a different kind of pedal for the solo. You can't do that with a pick. And he showed me. And it was wild. It was like, oh man, that makes a big difference. There you go. So yeah, picks, they make a difference. So we got some more comments coming in. Here's a really good one that I want to get into from Sacred Godslayer, who says, I also think that much of the strain that goes into the muscles after a layoff is psychological. Relaxing a lot and finding the headspace not to feel performance pressure helps a lot. It certainly does. Now, there is a huge psychological component to performance. And we can define performance in a few different ways. So if we use kind of I'm going to go back to strength sports here, but if we use a strength sports type analogy or a sports type analogy for practice or for playing, performance can be defined as the balance between your current level of fitness adaptation and the current level of stress that you're under at any given point. So by stress, what we mean is it can be training stress, it can be, physical stress imparted onto your muscles, your central nervous system, your bones, joints, etc. through doing the thing. Say you're training for a big squat. Squatting is a stressor, but so is all sorts of other things like psychological arousal, being like nervous or hyped up or whatever. That's a stressor. Life stress, work stress, poor sleep. There's all sorts of things that can contribute to a stressor that may reduce your ability to express your current fitness level, let's say. Now, if your current fitness level on the guitar is lower than where you'd like it to be, psychological stressors can reduce your capacity to express that even further, right? Now, there's not really a good easy way around this. There's not really a good fix where I can go, just do this and you'll be fine. But being aware of this can help, right? And being aware that stressing over your guitar playing and trying to make it great can actually make it worse. What we can do with this is we can foster an attitude of like, look, it's going to be what it's going to be. It'll be fine. We're playing the guitar. We're making music. Nobody dies. It's okay. If you aren't quite there on a given day, it's fine. It's fine. You'll get there. You'll be there. And I guess this comes with focusing on the outcome. Sorry, focusing on the process more than the outcome, if that makes sense. But you're absolutely correct. This is something that can manifest as a big performance decrement, stress on yourself, right? Stress from psychological stress, from expectation, from being bummed out that you can't play the way you played a month ago. We recognize that, look, stressing over this isn't going to help. I just need to just do the thing, I guess, and let it grow, let it become, what it was, and it'll get there. It's a very good point, though. So we've got some more comments coming in. What shop was it? Said Fog Cornish. He says, regarding the shop that Brian used to run. It was just called The Guitar Shop, and it was The Guitar Shop. Absolutely killer. We love a bit of that. We've got some discussion on picks. What do you think of the Black Mountain hinged picks? Never played them, but I'd love to have a go. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Broderick used something similar to that, and his technique always fascinated me as a guy who's into the tapping thing, right? The idea of being able to just open your hand and the pick stays there. That's really fascinating, but I'm a bit concerned about my ability to manipulate a note using the amount of thumb on the string. So I've talked about this at length, but I like to use different ways of picking a note to make notes sound a bit different, and this interacts with the gain sound that I'm using. So I play with a lot of gain, right? As you may have noticed, right, a lot of gain, a lot of delay, because I like both of those things. They're fun and they're entertaining. Do they make my life easier? Depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I have to use a very exaggerated touch on the guitar to make notes sound different from each other. And part of that involves not just the pick angle or the pick depth, but how much skin is on the string. And I'd worry with a pick that's attached to my thumb, I wouldn't be able to do that so much. So that might be a thing. Whether that's a good thing for other styles, who knows? But I would be concerned about that. We got lots of conversation about picks. Really love a bit of that. Joe Walsh, here's an interesting one. Joe Walsh turned me on to using the rough back corner of the Herco 75 pick. Never met Walsh personally. Well, you know, we can pick these things up from players. My mate Ant always has a great tone, and he uses the corner of the pick. And what I mean by corner is he will use, instead of this pointed part of the plectrum like this, he will turn it around and use the edge of the pick like that. Now, I always forget to do this. I always forget that it's an option, but it can sound great. Like, it can sound really fat and really cool. And he plays like that way exclusively and always has really great tone. Regardless of what he's playing through, just seems to have a lovely sound. It's not just this. It's just part of the holistic makeup of him as a player. But, man, like, let's take a listen to the difference. So if I'm playing with the tip, with the corner, with the tip, with the corner, not as dexterous, but the tone is fatter. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, your mileage may vary, but it's an interesting option. You know, it's another fun thing to play with. So this might be something else that I might look at as a final thought when I'm coming back from a layoff. We talked about using it as an opportunity to explore things that you suck at, because you suck at everything. So doesn't matter if you're sucking at one particular thing that you've always wanted to have a go at. I might actually use that as an opportunity to explore things like switching between tip and corner. I might actually do that. I might make that a thing that I'm practicing on. Anyway, folks, we've run clean out of time. It's been a lot of fun. I love hanging out with you guys talking about the guitar. Don't forget, we have a sponsored lesson, which is going to be available. It will be linked in the pinned comment below this video. Give us a subscribe while you're there. Don't forget, hit all the icons, all the appropriate thumbs and bells and all that sort of business. Go click the sponsored lesson, which is free to you guys. It's completely free. It's one of John Connon's fingerstyle acoustic arrangements of classic rock songs, available free for 1 week. Make sure you revisit this video after we finish in about a minute's time. You'll get this lesson for nothing, right? Lick Library members, you'll get all the other ones as well, because they're included in your membership. But if you want to see what Lick Library membership is all about, this lesson is a great way to check it out. We've got all sorts of good stuff, you name it, and this is one of them. But folks, I'm going to bid you adieu. My name is Nick Jennison. It has been a pleasure. I'm going to quickly try and find that original backing track, and if I can't find it, I'll just pick another one, because I was really enjoying it, and it's so much fun, and it has run away from me. Incidentally, by the way, talking about backing tracks, we have new backing tracks coming very soon. They're all coming your way because we've all played over these tracks 1,000 times. They're great fun, but we need new tracks occasionally. You know what? Can't find the thing, so I think instead I'm going to do the 80s training montage in D minor, because that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, where have I misplaced that one? Here it is, right? I'm going to play over this one because why not? It feels like it fits the theme. Folks, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to hit the buttons on the way out the door. Come back after this video is finished. Click the pinned comment for free lessons. It's going to be good. I'll see you guys next week. Take it easy. Bye.